Monday. This is Lynn from Lions and Fitness.
This is Tanya with Live Wellness Life Coaching.
And this is the Invest in Yourself weekly Monday podcast. So the last few podcasts we've kind of, I've blindsided her. I've completely blindsided her on this one. She has no idea. So,
She's
none.
laughing.
It's fun. Because I think this is a big topic, and I know that you're going to really enjoy talking about this topic. So, usually...
Sure?
I'm pretty sure that you will. Okay. So the last few podcasts we've talked about a lot of Abraham Hicks and a lot of the law of attraction. But today we were talking a lot in our new level 1 class of the Invest in Yourself about the Steven Pressfield War of Art. I just recently purchased the Turning Pro, so it's like part 2 kind of the War of Art, and I really, really fell in love with that book. I almost resonate a little bit more at this point in my life with that Turning Pro than I did with the War of Art. The War of Art was great for the resistance and stuff like that, but this one, I don't know, there was just some of the stuff that he would say that really connected with me. Your cat's playing with Legos. So today, this is a big topic, and this is a big thing that happens in most people's lives. Because I work with so many women at the gym, and then with the Invest in Yourself for being women's only, I find that this happens a lot with our gender. Now, maybe it's an insecurity. I don't see it a lot with the guys, but probably a lot of men have this as well. The fear of people judging us. And what people think, so it's like a self-reflection, right? So what we do, and this is kind of like, I like how he words this in some of the books, is that we are so scared to go against the grain and to go for what we want and to be our authentic selves because we are so scared of what other people are going to think about us, about what other people are going to say about us, about other people's anything, their judgment on your life as a whole. Now, if I lived in this, and I don't want people to judge me. It's not fun to have somebody sit there and think that whatever, but for the most part, I really don't care. So what I want, when you're reading this book, this Turning Pro book, he really talks a lot about that because a lot of people play a smaller game, or they don't be their authentic selves, or they live this, he calls it a shadow symphony. I think I brought this up in a couple podcasts, or this shadow type life where you're kind of living a life for somebody else's expectations. Does that make sense to you? Right? You kind of see a lot of people like that. So in the book, he says the reality is most people aren't actually judging you, and they don't really care how you live your life. At the end of the day, they don't really care how you live your life because they're too busy dealing with their own lives.
There's a few things here. You've always been brave enough and confident enough to be who you are authentically, right? So that's huge. That's awesome. That is awesome. And are you afraid of other people judging you?
Not anymore. Not in this stage of the game.
Okay, but even way back when you were stepping out and being who you are?
Not really, because
were you afraid of that judgment?
No.
Okay.
Not really, because I didn't care. I knew I was going to get flack for some stuff when I did some stuff, like being in a band, for example. I used to dye my hair like blazing red and green and orange and blue, and I worked for nuns, so I knew I was going to get it from them.
Mm-hmm.
I was already starting at that point in my life to get tattoos, so I was already getting some ink done, but no, for the most part, I never really cared. High school, maybe. But I stayed small in high school. Nobody really knew I was there.
Okay. So, for me, I've always been kind of unique, a little bit more unique, a little bit different than my siblings. But I always did my best to try not to be different. So I was never brave enough to be authentic. Mm-hmm. I was authentic, but I was never brave enough to step out and embrace my authenticity.
Okay.
Do
you have a story about that?
What are you thinking?
She's Aboriginal, and she was so scared.
Okay. So I spoke in high schools a few times. I spoke in a couple of inner city high schools to some Aboriginal youth. And growing up, we weren't really taught to be proud of our authentic backgrounds, okay? I'm a Ojibwe, so we're Aboriginal, we're German and Aboriginal. And and we weren't taught to be proud of who we were or to be proud of our culture or anything like that. And the people around me were always had some joke about Indians, quote unquote, right? And so I kind of just grew up through peer pressure, nobody implementing it on me really, but grew up being ashamed that I was Aboriginal.
Now this is the funny part.
So I'm in high school and I'm in history class and I'm like, my teacher's like, so what's your ethnic background, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, I don't even want to say it. I'm Spanish. He's like, but your last name is Clark. I'm like, oh, my dad was adopted and his name was changed, but I'm Spanish. I'm like, no. And I was like, but it's sad. And I like to tell it to the Aboriginal youth because it's like, you grow up being ashamed of who you are, right? Being ashamed of who you are. So you go to the extent of trying to lie about who you are.
But, okay, now there's a reason. I didn't want only that story because it's funny as hell, but there's a reason why I want it.
Still embarrassing today.
There's a reason for that, because you gotta think, how many people are living this pretend facade life for the exterior of their house? So they could be their authentic self when they're in their house, but when they leave, they have to pretend to be something that they're not. Now, at the end of the day, that's what that story to me entails, that you were just... and I mean, and as a high school kid, you don't want to be bugged, you don't want to be teased or bullied or whatever. So you make up these things. But the thing is that it's not only teenagers and it's not only kids that are doing it. It is a bunch of adults, because I've seen it in my life and I see it to this day. A lot of people put these, it's almost like they become an actor when they are in front of other people. And
it's a shield.
It's a shield. And they pretend to be something that they're not. Now, that story is awesome.
Let me just finish that up, though, please. The reason why I tell it when I'm speaking to our Aboriginal youth is so they understand that I've been there too, and I do my best to build this rapport with them and to earn their trust, right? And that let them know that I'm on their level. I'm not above them. I'm not below them. I'm at their level, and all I want to do is share. So that is why I tell them that incredibly embarrassing story. Now, having said that, I could say, you know what, I'm Aboriginal and blah, 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 blah. Mind you, I wasn't taught anything, any of the wonderful, wonderful, beautiful aspects of the Aboriginal culture. So I didn't know how to embrace it. Today, it's been self-taught. Like, I've learned about it and I embrace it, and my favorite thing to do is go to Manitowoc. Like, you've never experienced any type of energy until you experience that. But having said that, I could have gone there and said, yeah, I think I'm Aboriginal, and my mom's from Germany. I know I'm German and whatever, and nobody would have batted an eye. And you're right. Everybody around you is more than likely not going to give a shit, but it's your reflection.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're afraid and you think others are judging you and this and that, and you're feeling that, it's a reflection of what you're feeling inside that you're projecting onto other people. So because I was projecting onto everybody in the classroom that I am ashamed to be Aboriginal, they're going to just jump on board.
Yeah.
Right? But if I projected that don't know what I am, but I know I'm German and I know some blah, 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 and focus on that, then they would be on board. They're just reacting to my reflection.
Yeah.
or projection. Or,
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's that environment that you're starting to kind of create for yourself. So it becomes a whirlwind, right? And you just kind of keep going and going and going. And that's the biggest thing that I want, I guess, like in this podcast to kind of bring up, because we've brought a lot of what the law of attraction does. We brought last week with the high and low emotions and stuff like that. So you got to think, if the law of attraction, believe it or not, is working for you, okay, and it is, and then you're always down here, and then you're always worried about what other people think about you, so you put this shield up, or you're too scared to be yourself, what do you think keeps coming back in your life? So that whole I'm stuck feeling comes right back into here.
Yeah, well, because like the law of attraction states like attracts like, what you think of persists. More so what you feel persists.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because you can tell the universe everything, but it doesn't go on what your words are. It goes on your vibrations.
Yeah, it goes on, it goes on what you feel, okay? It goes on what you feel. So yes, it's even more powerful when you can link up what you think to what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like in the classes, I make sure to go through that flow chart of what you think of, you feel, what you feel, you think, right? It goes, okay, so if you're resisting who you really are, but you're like doing your best to vibrate as high as you can, but you're still resisting who you are, you're totally like clashing it, and you're just keeping yourself where you're not moving forward.
Well, you're pouring cement on your feet. Because
the simple thing that we teach is your low emotions, right? Your low emotions and then your high emotions. Doesn't matter what your low emotion is, it's still the same frequency. Doesn't matter what your high emotion is, it's still the same frequency. Now, if you have resistance, that is a low vibration. You are vibrating, you're attracting low, like a low vibration, if you're resisting.
So in the book, he proceeds to go on. So with the whole reflection, having the thought that people are judging you, staying in your, staying under your shield, kind of letting everything depict you. That fear is what keeps you from gaining anything that you want. So if I would have let that happen, where I would have let the fear of people sit on me, if I was too scared to be my authentic self, if I was too scared to kind of go out for that goal because I was too afraid of what people in like the CrossFit community, because I want to open up my CrossFit gym. If I'm too scared about all that stuff, what do you think happens? Do you think that LDF CrossFit happens? No. I wouldn't have the gung ho to go and do it because I'd be too scared. I'd be too scared of what other people thought. I'd be too scared, well, what about that gym? What are they going to think about me? What about this gym? I don't give a shit what those gyms are going to think about me.
So I think that fear is a wonderful thing. Like I said yesterday during the class and the other class and probably a podcast or two, all emotions are healthy because they guide you. There are guides. They guide us. You don't feel good. That is telling you you don't feel good. Where do you want to be? Kind of thing, right?
Yep.
So fear, I'm not kidding you guys. Every single time that there is a class that I have to speak at, that I have to share information, not have to, but love it, I am so scared. Yesterday, the level 1 started, and I texted her, I'm like,
let's cancel.
Yeah, I said, I'm too scared, let's cancel. Because it was our first, virtual.
Yeah.
And I was really worried about it because I've never done it before, and but I was so I was, and I do it every single class. I feel like this every single class.
Yeah.
I'm worried, and I'm make sure that everybody got enough information, and I hope this and that. But then when I'm not in that particular situation, I'm at home going, oh my gosh, I have so much wonderful information to share. Like, shame on me if I don't do it.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's use that for an example. Like, we all have that little bit of nervous energy. Now, is it like, okay, for me, when I had to do, when I had to go at the Transcona Square there at the Transcona Farmers Market.
Yeah.
When they gave me the mic, I was like, okay, it's a nervous, but it was a good, healthy, fun, holy crap, I'm doing this in front of people, and I can't wait to share this nervous, as opposed to, oh crap, they're going to judge me, they're going to think I'm a fraud, they're going to, whatever. But so, before you jump in, do you think that when you have those depicting energies, so this is the nervous and being like happy nervous, and this is like the fear. Do you not think that eventually it just spirals off and then you're going to attract more if you're in that happy nervous as opposed to that fearful nervous?
Oh, of course. See, the fearful nervous and the excited nervous, or the excited fearful thing, or it all depends on how you look at fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you look at fear as something that you want nothing to do with, I don't like it, I don't like confrontation, I don't blah, 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 blah. And if you have self-doubt, you don't, your confidence is low, yeah, you're going to attract more of that.
Yeah.
That's all yucky feelings. If you're feeling fear, kind of like the class, and I'm like, okay, I like this feeling because I know that I'm moving forward. And for the most part, I'm very confident in what I share because I think it's wonderful information. And I mean, it's some of it's so simple that just by people knowing this information, it doesn't matter how I teach it, it's really going to impact your life if you so choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, I think it's good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, because So I had wrote a blog, maybe a year ago, about fear and letting it be your flashlight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
So usually when you can look beyond the whatever it is that you're scared of. So the end result with you could be like at the end of the class, how you feel after the class. You always feel really, really, you're vibrating.
I am, but I always.
You always want to make sure that whatever happened,
yeah.
like you always just want to make sure that you're getting enough out there. Sometimes, so at the end, but you got to know that when you're in your head and that hasn't happened yet. So like for me to get my box, it hasn't happened yet. But if the fear was like when I think about ahead. Can I see myself in that place? How do I feel when I'm in that place? Do I feel good about the fact that my rent like goes up 1,000%? Yeah. I have to make sure. I got clients coming in. I got to make sure that my membership prices match what I can output. I got to make sure that I'm paying an accountant. I got to make sure. And so
yeah,
I could run the other way with that much stress. But the fact is I look at that and I'm like, that's going to be totally awesome. So I settle into it. So that fear becomes now my flashlight and my guide to going for it.
Yeah.
But if I look at that box and I see nothing but yucky feelings, I would probably go the other way because I could never settle into it.
That example.
Trip to Mexico.
Oh man, fine. Let's talk about that.
But it could be as simple.
I've been wanting to take my kids to Mexico for like 3 years for Christmas. And what?
Nothing. Keep going.
And now I'm like, it's like I'm even more determined because now I'm on my own and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with the money on my own kind of thing. So I could go, it's not going to happen. I'm on my own. But no, we got a Mexico jar. The boys put their allowance or whatever, and I put whatever extra, which is a little bit, but extra change money in there. And we're all determined and we're vibrating. We're going to Mexico for Christmas and it's going to happen. And I don't know when because I'm totally going to wait until the last minute where I have a few weeks of holidays or whatever and book last minute. But you could see how you'd be like, yeah, Tanya, single income now? No, not going to happen for you.
That and the other paralyzing fear for as simple as getting on a plane for some people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a paralyzing fear for many, many people. If you had any advice for anybody out there that was putting that shield up, that was too scared to go against the grain, that was too scared to kind of step out and be their authentic selves, what would you say to them to just take one step into trying to change that? Like one little thing that can maybe help somebody get out of that a little bit.
Work on yourself. Do some work on yourself. Step one would be, again, I'm gonna say this until everybody watching this podcast gets it, but acknowledge what it is. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge what it is. Acknowledge the fact that, you know what, I'm a certain way and I'm too afraid of what people are going to think.
All right, part 2 coming up at the end of the week. Bye.